Listening to Compete Radio with your host, Josh Fourier, Buddy Early with the news, Alfonso Chavez with Sports Pop, Connie Wardman with Ask Connie, and Eric Carlisle with Hot Topics. Compete Radio.
Welcome to the show. We have a great show for you today. But before we get started, we would like to take the time here to send our condolences to Gabrielle Giffords and the 5 other people that were affected by the recent events that happened in Tucson. As most of you know, there was a shooting. People have died. Congresswoman Gabrielle Giffords is currently in the hospital, recently visited by President Obama. She opened her eyes for the first time when he came to visit her. And also, her husband has been sitting by her side, holding her hand 24/7 since she's been in the hospital. So our thoughts and prayers go out to everyone who was affected. And if we could just give maybe a short moment of silence for the people affected. All right, so Buddy, this week in sports news, a lot's been going on. We also, before we get to the news, we also have a special guest that'll be on the show. His name is Seth Greenleaf. He's a well-respected producer. He recently produced the documentary he went all over the country covering the flag football teams, the gay flag football, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. And so Eric will be interviewing him a little later on in the show. We'll all have an opportunity to ask our questions. So sports news, Buddy, what's going on?
Well, we're still basking in this great BCS championship game that I know we all watched on Monday night, right? Oh, Jay, our engineer, is raising his hand. Eric, I thought you might be someone who, even if you didn't watch, you'd say you did.
Actually, I did. No, I was at the restaurant, and they actually had it playing, so you couldn't miss it.
Well, there you go. This was one of the best BCS championship games we've had in a while. One of the best, period. Oregon, in the end, could not pull it out. They lost 22-19 to Auburn. It's Auburn's first national championship since 1957. But one of the fun things about this, about college football and any college sport, basketball or whatever, is the day after the championship is decided, you get everyone talking about the next season already.
Oh, my
And
gosh.
so I thought it would be fun to present my top 5 going into 2011. The season doesn't start till end of August, early September. But we can go ahead and look ahead and see.
Another buddy list?
Another buddy list.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's speculation time.
We need some sort of theme music to Buddy's list.
Now, I do want to say Buddy is getting paid $9.95 a minute for his predictions.
Was that enough of the theme music from the whatever?
Buddy, is this the first list of 2011?
This is the first list, I think.
This is historic right now.
Oh,
Yes.
mark your calendars, people.
So, anything can happen between now and then. We don't exactly know who's coming out into the draft and who's staying in school.
I thought you were going to say who's coming out in the drag.
But that would be Alfonso. Friday night at a bar near you.
What's your point?
But anyway, these are the top 5 teams that I'm looking at right now as having a chance at winning it all next year.
This list is subject to change.
Oh, for
Opinions
sure.
on these teams
Yes, it could change tomorrow.
Could change at any time.
Number 5, I'm going with the Florida State Seminoles. Florida State, if you grew up at all following college football, was dominant for about 13 years. From 1987 to 2000, Florida State finished each of those seasons ranked in the top 5, which is remarkable. During that time, they also won 2 national championships.
Now, is that the same as being a top 5 team?
Finishing the season ranked in the top 5.
Okay. I see.
And I think next year is their year back to the top or close to the top. They've had some down years by Florida State standards recently. Including a couple years ago, they went 6-6. This year, they had a 10-win season. Their new coach, Jimbo Fisher, I know that's a great name.
I think 2 names or 3.
Has got them on the right track. They have a great defense, and they have an excellent recruiting class coming in. So I think that's going to put them to the top of the ACC conference. Number 4, I've got the Stanford Cardinal, and this is interesting because I might have put Stanford at number 1, except their head coach, Jim Harbaugh, has decided to go to the NFL. And so they're going to be missing. They're going to be with a new head coach.
Who's he going with, buddy?
He's going to play with coach the 49ers.
Oh, okay.
So he doesn't even have to move. He's in the Bay Area again.
Yeah.
But they are returning Andrew Luck, who is the #1 quarterback in the country and could go to the NFL and be a starter on Sundays immediately next year. But he decided to stay at Stanford and get his education.
Good for him.
So I've
Now, I
got
heard Hayden Fox may be taking over the team, buddy.
he and who?
Hayden Fox may be taking over the
Hayden
team.
Fox. Nice obscure reference there. From the ABC 90s series Coach, by the way.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Okay. The guy from Poltergeist.
Craig T. Nelson.
Oh, yeah.
My number 3 team, I'm kind of cheating here because I was looking at my top 5 list and I was figuring it out, and I didn't have an SEC team in my top 5. And the SEC conference, the SEC has won the last 5 national championships. So I'm thinking they've got to have a team in the top 5. So number 3 is insert SEC team here. And I don't know if that's going to be, Auburn. They are the defending national champions. So, why not give them a shot? LSU is returning 10 offensive starters. They have some questions on defense, but they're always tough. Alabama. They've got great depth, and they lose some players, but they return one of the best running backs in the country. And South Carolina is actually the team that I give the best chance because they have a combination of Steven Garcia, Marcus Lattimore, and Ashlon Jeffrey, who are great offensive players. And so I'm kind of giving the edge to South Carolina here. But in the end, I just think you can count on the SEC having at least one team in the top 5 at the end of the year, possibly playing again for a national championship. My number 2 team is the Oklahoma Sooners. They're returning quarterback Landry Jones and receiver Ryan Broyles, 2 of the best in the country, and they have a great offensive line. And if you've heard me talk football before, you know how I feel about offensive lines and how important they are.
Everybody out there has heard you talk football, buddy. Come on.
And my number 1 team is the Oregon Ducks. They didn't pull it out this last Monday night. They came close, but they are returning 2 of the best players in the country. LaMichael James, who was a finalist for the Heisman Trophy, is coming back at running back, and their quarterback Darren Thomas is coming back. And they have Chip Kelly is possibly the best coach in the country, I believe, and they just have a really exciting offense, and I think they can get it done next year.
Well, can we go back to the game again? Because immediately after the game, all these things on Facebook and everywhere else about how Cam Newton?
Cam Newton.
Or Fig, I wasn't sure which it was, how he was paid to play. I mean, is there a big controversy, or is that just a rumor?
No. It's been pretty much established. The NCAA kind of gave him a pass and slapped his father on the wrist and said that it was his father who was trying to pimp out Cam.
This way he could still play.
Yeah, and so that's what the controversy is about.
Oh, here we go with integrity again.
Now, Alfonso, you said you would pay for play on Friday night. Is that still an option?
I don't make enough to pay for anything, actually, so we all know that's not true.
Poor Alfonso.
Cam Newton is a junior, but you can expect him to announce. He may have done it this morning, and I don't even know.
To go pro?
To go pro, because clearly he's not about getting an education. The story came out when he was at Florida for 1 year. He cheated there academically.
Yeah.
And then there's the whole situation of his dad trying to sell him to the highest bidder, amongst SEC teams. So you can expect that Cam Newton will not be at Auburn next year, and that might hurt them a lot.
That really floors me, because don't they see they've got a limited opportunity to make money, but they ruin their body, and what are they going to do after 10 years?
Well, he's not ruining his body.
Well, not yet, he's not.
Well,
but he gets in the pro leagues, you think he's not going to be knocked down and hurt?
But a lot of people think, that 1 extra year, I can get in there a year early, that's that much more money I can make. Yeah. So it's sort of, they consider it a loss.
Either they're going to be in college or they're going to be in the NFL, so they're still going to have that wear and tear on their body no matter
Although
what.
I think the championship game on Monday night kind of exposed Cam Newton a little. He didn't have the best game statistically. He didn't rush for the amount of yards that he was used to rushing for all year, and I think that might be a sign that he could really struggle against these pro defenses who've got, each one of those guys on a pro-style defense was the best in college.
Right.
So it's not going to be as easy for him when he gets to the NFL.
No, buddy, I want to ask you because, as you know, I'm an expert pick also. I
Sure.
I think I know what the championship is going to be next year.
Okay.
I consulted Miss Cleo. Okay.
Oh.
So I had some professional.
Call me now.
It was, but I consulted Jimmy the Greek through Miss Cleo.
Wow.
So this is a real powerful.
This should be good.
I think we're going to see the Cornhuskers versus the Gators.
We are multicultural here.
And that's what Jimmy the Greek told you via Miss Cleo.
Yes. So
Okay.
I want someone to write that down because that's what we're going to see
She
next year.
didn't have her turban wrapped real tight, though. Are you
No,
sure you
Eric
got
says-
the information?
Do you know where the Cornhuskers and the Gators are from?
Yeah, Iowa and Florida.
No.
Okay, I'm wrong.
It's Nebraska and Florida.
Nebraska, pardon me.
Good job.
I need to write this down, Nebraska.
I want to move on.
Please,
some
buddy,
NFL
please.
playoffs while I still have a few minutes.
Oh, really?
I was-
NFL playoffs?
I was wrong last week. Of the 4 games last week, I missed 3 of them in my picks.
Oh,
I don't think I
dear.
made all my picks on the air, but I did make picks, and the only one I got right was Baltimore over Kansas City. So I'm going to make another attempt this weekend.
Well, we won't tell your bookie.
There's 4 more games this weekend, and I'm going to make an attempt to predict these games, starting with the NFC, because I think these are the less interesting games, and also I think the easier to pick. We have the Seahawks, after their miraculous win against the Saints last weekend, going into Chicago to play the Bears. This is a rematch. Seattle actually beat Chicago in Chicago earlier this season. I don't think that's going to happen again. Seattle's offensive line really stepped it up in the game against the Saints, but Chicago's defense has Pro Bowlers up and down it, and I think the key here is defensive lineman Julius Peppers is going to get to Matt Hasselbeck a lot and shut down the Seahawks. So I'm going with the Bears over the Seahawks.
Okay.
The other NFC game is the Packers traveling to Atlanta to take on the Falcons. A lot of people are picking the Packers because they won their final 2 games of the season to make it into the playoffs. Then they went into Philly and beat the Eagles last weekend, and now everyone's on the Packers bandwagon, and they seem to be forgetting that Atlanta's a really good team, and they don't lose at home very often, and they have a great offense. I'm going with Atlanta over Green Bay. I think Green Bay's done all it can. They're such a Jekyll and Hyde team this year. So Atlanta and Chicago are my picks in the NFC.
Okay.
I thought this would have
Write
been a
that
great
down, Eric.
opportunity to have a Brett Favre reference with the Packers, but I'm going to
Well,
let it go.
he doesn't
Maybe
play with
that's
them
how
anymore.
Cam
That's
Newton is
probably
gonna
what the
make money
slap in
his
the
old
face.
age.
The AFC, I think, you've got 2 amazing games because both of these games pit division rivals against each other that have played twice already this season, and they've split. You've got the Ravens playing the Steelers. This is a really healthy rivalry as opposed to a game we're going to get into in a minute. They have a lot of respect for each other, but they both play really tough defense. They've split their games, like I said earlier this season, each team winning on the other team's home turf. Pittsburgh's got the home field advantage this week. I'm going with the Ravens, Connie. I'm sorry. They both have great defenses.
I'm wearing my Pittsburgh shirt today, too.
Yeah, I know.
Oh.
They both have great defenses.
Well, that was underwhelming.
The Ravens have a tendency to be able, their defense gets up for a game more so and better than any other defense I've seen. I mean, it's amazing how fired up they get. And so it's going to be a close game, though.
Yeah.
The other game in the AFC that I think is not a healthy rivalry, these 2 teams just hate each other, and that's the Jets and the Patriots.
Oh,
There's been
I thought you were going to say
That-
sales and editorial.
they've had
here.
trash talk all week.
There's been a lot of trash talk going on all season, and particularly this week, particularly coming from the Jets side of it, and from Coach Rex Ryan, from cornerback Antonio Cromartie, who is on the cover of the current
I
Compete
was going to
magazine.
say.
January 2011 issue of Compete available now.
Yes, thank you. And I've got to go with the Patriots. This game could go in any direction, but the Patriots do have the home field advantage, and they went 14-2 this year. You can't overlook that.
Yeah.
The Jets surprised a lot of people in last year's playoffs, going to the AFC Championship game, and I wouldn't be surprised if they went in and beat the Patriots, but I'm not expecting it. So there's my winners in the NFC: Bears, Falcons; AFC, Ravens, and Patriots.
Okay.
So, having said that, I'm probably wrong on at least 2 of them. That's the way my picks go.
I think
I
the
back you,
Iowa
buddy.
Cornhuskers are going to win. So that's all I can
And
say.
I'm glad you gave a shout out to the Bear community.
The ones from Iowa or Pennsylvania or
He
what was
doesn't
that
know.
end state?
Okay, log on to CompeteRadio.com for news, information, hot topics, and more. And buddy, with my expertise, I back you. I think
Thank
you're
you.
right. I'll put 20 bucks down right
Validation.
now.
Do it now.
Log on to CompeteRadio.com. We'll be back with Sports Pop. Stay with us.
Compete Radio. Compete Radio.
Welcome back to the show. If you're just joining us, we've just covered sports news, the top 5 NFL teams,
No, college football.
college football teams. I'm sorry. You know me in sports, buddy. A little later in the show, we will have Seth Greenleaf on the show. He is the producer of Flag Football, the movie. We will put the links up online where you can go and see the most up-to-date information on that. But now it's time for Sports Pop with Alfonso Chavez.
Hello, everybody. Anybody who's been watching the news in the last week knows that something really big happened, and this was actually something that I'd seen, and Eric was also of a similar mind, and
That's scary.
yeah, it is actually. And this item that we're going to be talking about today is Johnny Weir's acknowledgement of his sexuality.
Oh, that was the big news.
Really?
Yeah.
Shocking.
Well, it was kind of like when Apple announced that the Beatles was going to be on iTunes, and everybody was just kind of like, oh, is that it? Okay.
Yeah.
I think it was more like Apple announcing the iPhone for Verizon because everybody knew about it before Apple announced it.
Well, you're probably right. Well, yeah, we know it's not a shock, but it was part of his book that just came out the last week called "Welcome to My World," which is on sale now. In this book, he states, and this is actually from People magazine as well. They had a little photo spread and an interview with him, and then they had this excerpt in his book. And the excerpt says, "In a sexual way, I'm gay, but I would marry a woman tomorrow if it struck me. I don't think sex and relationships necessarily have to go together."
Good
So
land in
there's,
heaven.
I don't know if it gets more ambiguous than that.
Most marriages
Did
actually
you
don't
spell his
involve
last
sex.
name
do
with
they?
a D on the end of it?
There was too much going on there. I just missed all of it. Sorry.
I did too. Go on. It's fine.
So he stated that he finally did this in hopes that young people would, quote unquote, gain strength from his telling of his story. Again, this is somebody else who is seeing what's happening in our community with the youth. You know,
Yeah.
this epidemic of these gay suicides in, again, our youth. He also went on the Today Show. Now, this is where it gets good.
Okay.
Did anybody happen to see it, this interview?
Not I.
Okay,
Oh.
well, we'll have it up on under the Sports Pop tab on Compete Radio, so people can watch it if they want. He was talking a little bit about his book on the Today Show, and
Naturally.
he acknowledged that he can be a little crazy. And crazy was
Oh,
the
thank
word
God
he
he
used.
knows because I was afraid he didn't know.
Yeah, you
I
know,
said the
some-
same thing on my Facebook page. So.
yeah, sometimes we don't know we're crazy. So, and he claimed to be a simple person who loves vacuuming.
Oh my God.
That's one of his simple pleasures is vacuuming.
He and Dog the Bounty Hunter, so what do they have in common?
Not the well, actually, they have similar haircuts. You know.
Okay.
And he said that he was surprised by his coming out because he never, or by people's reaction to his coming out, because he never claimed to be gay, and he said he never lived in a closet. You know, that I understand. I think all of us can say, yeah, you're right. You never were really in the closet, Johnny Weir.
Right.
But he never really said he was gay. And his opinion was that he doesn't celebrate being white or male, so why should he celebrate being gay?
Well, he certainly has a point with that.
I agree with that.
I think he certainly does celebrate being gay with his costumes and his choreography.
I don't-
mean, let's,
Don't you celebrate being male 3 times a week, Alfonso?
Poor Alfonso. This
I
is
have
the
no
third
idea
one.
what you mean by that, Eric. But,
the
I
rest
think
of us do.
you know what? I really don't like the use of this word "celebrate" when we talk about who we are, because if you say I have brown hair, are you celebrating that you have brown hair? It's
Right.
like, no, that's just an aspect of who I am.
No, but if you say, "Oh my gosh, I've got brown hair," woohoo!
Yeah,
then you are.
or I have hair. You know, I don't. It's not a
There's
celebration.
more celebration over
Well,
having
I
hair.
mean, am I celebrating the fact that I have hair by getting a haircut? It's like, no, I'm maintaining it and it's there. So That's not a celebration.
It's just part of who you are.
Exactly. One important point that came up was his coming out to his mother, and after having discussed it later, he found out that she feared for his happiness. So I can relate to that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because when I came out to my mom, it was like this really negative knee-jerk reaction. And actually, a few months ago, when I was shopping for an outfit for Tess, she said she wasn't as much concerned about me being gay. She was concerned about how people were going to treat me because I was gay.
Yeah.
And this is exactly what Johnny Weir experienced with his mother.
I think a lot of us
And
experience that same thing.
That's
too.
appropriate because you know what your kid goes through growing up. Whether the child recognizes it or not, parents can see signs early on, whether they want to own up to that or not, and whether they want to support the kid.
I want a
So
Barbie for
it's-
Christmas.
Yeah, exactly.
Eric wants a real Barbie, not like, so he can dress her up and brush her hair. Here's another bit that I'm sure other people were looking forward to hearing him talk about. They talked about his rivalry with Evan Lysacek. He said that Evan Lysacek no longer has any part of his life because he's no longer figure skating. And in the interview, he was asked, is there some jealousy between him and Evan Lysacek? And he said, other than the fact that he has the Olympic gold medal and the world championship, he said, of course I'm jealous of that. Who wouldn't be? But he said, other than that, there is no jealousy between the two of them.
Let's have a dice on off. We'll give them each a vacuum cleaner and we'll see.
On this, we'll give him a Zamboni that they put. He closed the interview by stating that he took off a year to basically enjoy himself and eat.
I beg your
See, a
pardon.
true gay man, they always take off years.
Yeah.
It'll be 2 years next year. And
Being gay takes off years. I know that. And he said he's going to get back into heavy training this spring to find out if he can still get into the shape that he needs to be in to compete. And a figure skating. He also did a figure skating performance to his single "Dirty Love," which was interesting.
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah.
he has a single?
Yeah, he has a single that just came out last week.
Oh, did it? Oh, I thought. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Well, here's a little bit of an update that I found this week also. At a book signing in New York, he stated that he has plenty of information to share that could fill a second book. He said that he had to be careful to remove a lot of information that he initially included in the book because he didn't want to offend anybody or get sued.
Right.
So there's a lot of sordid facts that were left out of this book.
Sounds like lots of drama.
Oh, I'm sure. Figure skating, gay men, drama. Oh my God.
Do we know how the book
figure.
is doing?
It's only been out like maybe a little over a week.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I really don't know how it. I mean, you usually have results by now of how a book is selling. You know.
I would think
But-
so within a week, yeah.
Yeah. In other coming out news, Steve Buckley, a sports columnist for the Boston Herald, came out last week in his column. It was actually a really sweet story about this columnist, Steve Buckley, and his mother, who died before he was able to come out publicly. They had actually had a discussion about 7 years ago, and he decided while he was on a shopping trip with her that he was going to come out, and she basically said, yeah, you really need to do that. But he didn't get around to doing it until after she died. He stated that he's also going to be more, quote unquote, involved in the gay community, but he also acknowledged that he couldn't really describe what he meant by that.
Did he say whether or not he likes to celebrate his gayness?
He said he will be inviting Kelsey Grammer over for some dress-up later
Did he
on.
pick the Jets or the Patriots?
He's in Boston. I'm assuming he's picking the Patriots.
Yeah. Sorry, that one just sideswiped me. I was like, he also referenced how he'd heard about stories of other gay people whose lives fall apart after coming out and others who commit suicide. He said his hope in that his coming out would encourage others to be honest with themselves.
Well, and let's
can't
hope
hurt.
that's the case.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we got a little bit of drama here.
Really?
That's going to be kind of funny to talk about that I wanted to mention. Canadian publication The Cascade has a column called Interview With, and then it's like fill in the blank. This week, or in the last week, they had an interview called Interview with a Homosexual. So they had like a Yasmin user or, somebody who did stuff like that. So in this particular edition, the subject was asked if the gay games are the gay community's Olympics. Here was his response.
Oh, no.
Since the gay games have split into the out games and the gay games, no, they are not our Olympics. More like Dynasty, with the gay games being Crystal Carrington.
Well, today is the 30th anniversary of Dynasty coming on television.
Well, there
so
you go.
How appropriate.
A little bit
really?
of foreshadowing.
Yes.
Wow.
I heard it this morning on TV. You know everything you hear on TV must be true.
And
Yeah.
I think we have time for one more quick thing, and I'm going to try to get to some events. We're all familiar with the Onion News Network.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, you know...
So they have the Sports Dome now on. or
Yes,
whatever.
that's what I was going to talk about.
Oh,
It's called
I
the
got one
Onion
right.
Sports Dome. Get sportsed. And it premiered on Tuesday, January 11th.
Comedy
and,
Central.
Yeah, well, and I just want to talk about a few of the headlines of the show. One of the headlines was baseball superstar gets accused of performance-enhancing genie use.
Mm.
And another one was St. Louis gives Cardinal star Albert Pujols working key to the city. So Albert Pujols has a key to the city that actually opens things. And the last one was highlights. Meth addict Rob Langer takes on hundreds of invisible snakes. Snakes. Oh, snakes. Like,
Oh, they said steaks.
like on a plane.
Snakes.
Yeah.
He's not in Omaha.
So if you want to look at this, we'll actually have a bonus video on the Sports Pop tab of Compete Radio.
I
Very
think I
quickly.
missed something.
Yeah. What?
Everyone's cracking up, but I must have missed
I'm
it.
still
okay.
stuck on Pujols. I don't know.
That is funny. Okay, well let me get to some events that are going around this weekend across the United States. January 14th through 16th, Alamo City Tournament Bowling. This is the bowling tournament in San Antonio. The 14th through 16th, Orlando Meltdown Charity Softball Tournament in Orlando, Florida. IGRA University Academy of Rodeo Arts and International Dance Competition in St. Louis, Missouri, and Choosapalooza in Tucson.
All right. Pujols. Sorry. We'll be right back. Coming up, we have Seth Greenleaf. He is the producer of Flag Football, the movie. Log on to CompeteRadio.com. We'll be right back. On the line right now, we have the much anticipated Seth Greenleaf. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you guys. Good morning.
Good morning. Seth, if you could just speak up for us so we can make sure that we hear you. We've been waiting for you to be on the show. We're excited that you're here. Eric has quite a few questions for you, as well as all of us here in the studio.
Hey, Seth, how are you doing today?
I'm good, thanks. Good morning. Happy New Year.
We have something in common. We have both produced movies. I don't know if you saw my movie. It was starred Pamela Anderson and Tommy Lee. It's been taken down on certain websites, but anyway, no, but welcome. We're so glad to have you here. You have a very, very impressive background, and I enjoyed reading all about you and watching your teaser. My first question is, how did someone that has a theatrical background like you do, which includes Broadway, how did you get into the idea of doing something about gay flag football?
Well, let's see. It started, I was doing a show in Florida years ago, and I was down there, and I was just stuck in the theater for way too long. When I got back to New York, I was just really antsy and crazy, and, I play a lot of sports. I needed to get out onto a field. So first thing I did was sort of landed, unpacked, went right out to a field, Pier 40 in New York City, and I played soccer for about, I want to say 3 hours. By the time I was done, I could barely walk, and I was leaving, and right as I'm leaving, these guys, they're just arriving, and they're starting to throw a football back and forth. And when I see a football, I'm like a puppy, and I just immediately got all my energy back, and I'm watching this ball, and I went right over to them, and I said, hey, I play football. Can I play with you guys? And they were a little standoffish, a little funny. They said, we're part of a league, and, it's a team practice, and we're playing for something, and, it's not really open. And I said, well, is there anything I can do to help? I can, be a defender. I play quarterback, anything you need. And they said, well, maybe in a little while, maybe if you come back. I said, oh, how long? They said, an hour. And I said, sure. So they thought, they were just kind of blowing me off. They thought I would leave. I immediately just sort of sat down and started stretching from soccer and, just watched them. And I could see the look on their faces. They were like, oh, God, who is this guy? And I hung around for a while, and eventually they said, okay, fine, can you play DB? And I said, sure. And I jumped up, and I intercepted the first pass. And then they were like, oh, okay. And it went on from there. And eventually, they started talking to me, and one of the guys said, it's a gay league. Would you ever consider playing? And I said, yeah, sure. I said, absolutely, I would love to play. I love football. And, I just got back to New York after working out of town for a while, and, I quarterback, and that started the entire thing. And the next thing I knew, I was a quarterback in the New York Gay Flag Football League, and that was sort of the beginning of that journey.
Wow.
That's a great story.
Now, Seth, did you play sports when you were in school?
It sounds like maybe you did.
My entire life. I played two college sports, 3 in high school. Football, I played recreationally, but I didn't really get back into football until college because I was a little undersized for high school football, and I was a wrestler and a baseball player and had scholarships, and so it was a little too iffy to be out there in a football field getting broken.
Well, I think the next question I have for you is great because you have such a great sports background. Sometimes you talk to people that play adult sports, and they do it because they didn't have much of a background in sports as growing up. So what do you say when people say, hey, flag football is not really a sport?
I say that, come out and play. come and watch these guys. Well, you have to see them to really understand what it's about. And, friends of mine kid me, and it's okay. I get it, and I understand why, and that's part of, heterosexual sports world and sports culture. You jump on anything, you tease, you joke a lot. But for them to really come out and watch and see what these guys are doing and the level that they're playing, I think it's important. To be honest with you, that was one of the impetuses for me for making this film. I felt like I had been in that conversation with too many of my straight friends, about how great these guys are, how athletic this league is, and I wanted people to see that, and that was a part of what drove me to want to tell this story.
Well, Seth, yeah, and this movie is a huge deal. Now, you produced this movie, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and I saw that you had to raise $10,000, which is challenging in today's times, and you did. You actually got over the $10,000, right?
Yeah. That's the Kickstarter was to raise money for an editing system, which we raised and just ordered from Apple, and is on its way this week. And then the principal photography stuff I paid for with a tax refund that I've been saving for a long time. I just kept putting my taxes in my refund check back in over a few years. It's funny, I made the decision to make the film, and I think later that week my accountant called me and he said, what do you want to do with these refunds? He says, you keep pushing them back in, but they're, because you pay your taxes during the year, they're not going anywhere. And I said, how much is it? He told me, and I said, that's funny. That's almost exactly what I budgeted for principal photography for the film.
That's a sign.
So that worked out perfectly, yeah.
Well, Seth, labors of love are always good when you're passionate about something. So I can definitely see the passion in your teaser, which I love. People should go to CompeteRadio.com and click on the link to your teaser. At the very beginning of the teaser, you show some protesters out front of a flag football match.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, isn't that great? Is that something that you've seen across the country, or was that just the one incident?
That was the one incident. Actually, what happened there was one of the players for the New York Warriors team that we kind of profile his name is John McCullen, and he is a New York City cop. And I wanted to get footage of him being a cop. We've seen him on a football field. We've seen him, out with his friends from the team. He's, an absolutely, completely out guy. But I thought it would be fascinating to see him in uniform. And so I said to him, if anything comes up that would be interesting to film, let me know. And he said, well, I'm doing whatever detail it was on the Long Island City Pride Festival. And he said, that might be interesting. And I said, that would be perfect, because the idea of him juxtaposed, at a gay festival, but him in his sort of cop uniform and glasses, I thought that would be great footage. So we went to follow him around, and it turned out that there was this group of protesters there. And they were, just such a bunch of morons and so horribly out of place. And I had this footage of John having to protect them, because people at the festival were really not happy and were getting a little bit more agitated as it was going. And I thought, how fascinating is this? Here's John, the gay cop, which nobody knows, at least at this place, and he's having to protect these protesters at a Pride festival. So with all of that said, that guy talking about it took me a long time to get those protesters to talk on camera, but eventually they did, and I just thought it was so interesting. I just couldn't. It was Alex, my editor's idea to start with that just as a real kind of pop in the face. And when I saw it, I said, you know what, you're right. This is too too fascinating not to use.
So what's your goal? What are you trying to accomplish with this film?
Well, I think the first thing I wanted to do is I'd love it to be out there because I think it's important for people to know that these gay sports are happening. I mean, the nice thing is the people in our league, they're all a little bit older. These people are all post-college. But if there is a way to get it to filter to the high school level, however that may come about, I think that it's important for those kids to see it. I don't know if it was clear in all of that, but I'm straight and have had a very different history and a very different life in my relationship to sports. But having played in this league for a few years and really hearing the stories around me, I was always very moved by that period of, I don't want to say lost time, but that period where it was very hard for these guys to come to terms with who they were and what they loved at the same time. And it was something that I heard again and again in their stories, you know, that period where playing sports and being a part of a team was something that some of these guys really loved growing up, but they felt ostracized by, or they certainly felt uncomfortable or inauthentic when they were around it. And I know that that's a common experience. And the funny thing is, even as a straight guy, I've had that experience in things. It didn't have to be sports. I think we all go through that. But sports being such an important part of how we learn how to bond with other people and how we learn how to face projects together and find self-confidence, that has to be available to everyone.
Yeah.
And your sexuality should have absolutely nothing to do with it.
Thank you so much for saying that. And they do have lost years because there's a time when they can't be who they are to anybody.
Yeah, and people often overlook sports in the gay community and don't really bridge the gap between the gay and the straight community in sports. But Seth, we have about a minute left, and of course we're going to put the links up on CompeteRadio.com, how people can at least see your trailer at this point. I'm sure you'll send us some more information on where we can link to regarding your movie. But when this movie is available, where can we go to see it? How can we order the DVD? How is this all going to work?
The website will really be the place for information. We also have on Facebook Flag Football the Movie, and you can like that page. That's something we just recently set up. And I would say between those two resources, and they link back and forth to each other, we're starting another Kickstarter campaign to continue to raise finishing funds. But regardless of how much we raise, I will get this movie done no matter what, because what started out as a really wonderful idea that I felt passionate about has turned into something that obviously has a lot more meaning for more people than I realized. So that will all come to pass. But you can keep up to date on the website, and I hope to have a rough cut by spring. I hope to have a festival cut by fall. I would love it to receive national distribution, but regardless, it will definitely be available on DVD, and I'll cover all of that through the website as we get further.
Well, I think it's an amazing thing what you're doing. The trailer, it looks awesome. Looks like a really good movie. Looks like there's several dynamics to the film, and it helps that a few of my friends I saw actually in the movie as well on the Hellraisers locally here in Phoenix.
Oh, oh, God, you have no idea how much I love those guys. My whole crew, everybody's fascinating. But I would be lying if I didn't say that my crew, or definitely members of my crew, gravitated to the Hellraisers, because they're such a good group of guys. Yeah. And, we tried not to have favorites. We certainly didn't help any team over another. But there were a few people that were really heartbroken. I shouldn't say this because I give a plot point away. But when the Hellraisers were knocked out of the tournament, I think we all kind of went, ooh, because they're just such good guys to be around.
Hey, Seth, stay with us. We'll take a break. We'll be right back. We got to go to commercial. But log on to CompeteRadio.com for news, information, hot topics, and more. We'll be right back.
Compete Radio. Compete Radio.
Welcome back to the show. If you've just joined us, we are talking with Seth Greenleaf. And Seth, I am horrible at this, but tell me I'm pronouncing your last name correctly.
Greenleaf, that's it.
Oh, okay. Buddy, I got it right. Not like Joey Jacinto is what I said. It's Jacinto.
Well, earlier, Alfonso asked me if it was Albert Pujols.
Yeah.
And,
Who asked you that? Alfonso Chavez?
Chavez, right.
And you know what? Earlier, Seth, in my news segment, I was talking about the NFL playoffs, and I was giving my predictions, which are usually about 75% wrong. But I did pick the Patriots to win this weekend over the Jets. I said I wouldn't be surprised if the Jets went in and won, but I did pick the Patriots, and I understand you have a problem with that.
Okay, if you want me to choose between my head and my heart, in my head, it's probably a good pick. There's no doubt about it. The Patriots are playing the best football in the NFL right now on a consistent level. But, it was only a month ago that the Jets and the Patriots seemed like they were on par to be the two best teams, at least in the AFC, playing in this 9-2 showdown. And I just don't like the fact that, look, they had a horrible game. Jim Leonard broke his leg 3 days before they played, and then suddenly, the Patriots are propelled to this, impossible loft of perfection, and the Jets are this horrible team. And I think the truth is that they're a lot closer to each other as they were about 6 weeks ago than the way the press is portraying it. So I think, don't expect a 45-3 game. I think it will be a slugfest, probably come down to a last-minute drive and, a field goal.
Okay, fair enough. And you could be right. One thing I will say about the Jets in this game is they have a lot more to get up for. The Patriots are, they're the Patriots, so they're always prepared. But they're 14-2. They're the number one team. What are they getting up for? They're getting up for a hated rival. But the Jets, they've got so much to play for, and that could be the difference.
And I also think Rex is the right guy to take on Bill Belichick, because I think the Patriots mystique forms very quickly, and teams start to feel like they're losing a chess match against the Patriots in the first quarter, and you see teams just lose their confidence as they go. The nice thing about Rex is I don't think he's as much of a chess player as he is a street fighter, and if you're going to beat the Patriots, you cannot get into that kind of a game with them. You just got to go and try to punch them in the mouth and keep hitting them and attack Tom Brady, play them with absolutely no respect. And remember, they've got one of the youngest defenses in the NFL.
Holy moly.
Yeah, you got to go after them. I mean, you got to play kind of Jets football, and I think that's what Rex will do, and it might just work.
Yeah. Well, now that I've hijacked this segment for a little bit, I want to hand it back over to Eric, because I know he wants to talk a little bit more about your film. So take it away, Eric.
Well, I do have one last question for you. It's not as exciting or as brutal as your conversation with Buddy there, Seth. But just to tell everybody, the teaser does look awesome, and I encourage y'all to go check that out. But what I think is really great is that you have such a strong theatrical background, which we're hoping will play out really well in the movie. So my final question for you is kind of tongue-in-cheek, but you produced 9 to 5 the musical, right, on Broadway. When will we see Flag Football the musical?
Oh, Lord.
As soon as I can get Dolly to write it.
Flag Football the musical. I love it.
Yes, and also menopause. That was another great one.
I'm guessing David Hyde Pierce will not be starring in Flag Football.
I'm guessing it won't be like the Spider-Man musical with deaths and injuries.
I don't know.
Oh, gosh.
Hey, you know what? David Hyde Pierce could play the coach.
Yeah, okay.
Well, that's true.
Pretty versatile actor.
Well, the funny... Go ahead.
Go ahead.
The funny part about all of this deal, back to you, is that Antonio Cromartie is on our cover for the January issue talking about a no-hate campaign, and then here's all this trash talk with the Patriots.
Good point, Connie.
Oh, gosh.
Good point.
I saw that on your website with the tape over his mouth.
Yeah.
How profound.
They do that to me here on occasion, too.
That is a very salient point, Connie.
Well, I love Cromartie's bravado. I guess I don't know if I can call it confidence. It would have been nice if he didn't get torched last week, but let's see if hopefully he can follow through on that promise.
He just joined us. We are speaking with Seth Greenleaf. He is the producer of Flag Football, the movie. Log on to CompeteRadio.com. We'll throw the link right up there on the main page where you can click over and watch the trailer, as well as Seth, the most recent and up-to-date information on where they can actually go to see the movie.
Yeah, and they should join the Facebook page, because that, there's not a lot of separation between us, the people who are involved in the film, and certainly the audience as we go forward. So there's pictures that, we were all taking with, whether it was our camera phones or stills from the filming, of the players on the team. And as this goes forward, I think that those guys will all get highlighted as personalities, because they're all wonderful stories. Guys like Wade Davis, who's a former NFL player, and who is the captain of the New York Warriors. Joey, who I know you guys are friends with from the Phoenix Hellraisers, who's got a fascinating story. The LA Motion and Sid Ziegler, who runs Outsport. There's some really wonderful people who are involved with this, and hopefully within the competition and everything else, not hopefully, this will definitely happen.
Yeah.
You'll really get to know some of these guys and why football means so much to them and how interesting their journey of getting back to football has been.
Yeah. Now, what is the actual release date? Is that set yet, or is that still up in the air?
It's not set yet. A couple of people have reached out to us, a couple of production companies, but because, this is coming out of my back pocket, and I'm in a wonderful position to kind of take my time and say, I want to do a cut that I feel really good about. I want to do a cut that makes the statement that we started out with on this film, and at that point, I will submit it to festivals, and I'll meet with distributors, and we'll see how people respond to it. But it's not often in this business that you have that opportunity to kind of control your own destiny, and it's just so personal to me. These guys, some of the New York players were always friends, but certainly the other teams, those guys became friends in the process. And I just want to make sure it's the movie that we set out to make, and then we'll take it from there.
3 cheers for you.
Yeah, like I said, all I was able to see, unfortunately, was just the trailer for the movie, but it looks amazing. I mean, the dynamics where it starts off with the protest, it reminded me of the Westboro Baptist Church.
Oh, dear.
The crazy people. It reminded me of them, the way they were talking.
I just like the page just right now, so you have another fan.
Thank you very much. Well, on that Facebook fan page, too, you'll see under videos, there's a very little rough cut thing that we had to use for a grant proposal. And that's an interesting one because it shows you the 2 captains of the New York teams and the differences between them. And that just gives you a little flavor of what the interview process is like and how we sort of showcase the people's personalities. So that's just another thing that you can watch to give you a flavor of the film.
Okay. And now I promise we'll check your website every day. Will you give us a call though when you maybe have an estimate as far as when the movie will be released?
Absolutely.
Okay, because I think
I'm in touch with those Phoenix Hellraiser guys too. So Jared and Joey, and who are definitely, I would say Joey and Jared. If you know Jared Garduno out there, who's the captain of the Phoenix Hellraisers, those 2 guys are really the 2 featured players from the Phoenix Hellraiser team. So, they'll always be up to date on everything, and I'll be really happy to talk to you guys in the future as we get it together.
Okay. Well, we're all looking forward to it, and we thank you so much for taking the time.
Can I share some good news with Seth real fast, Josh?
Sure.
We just hired Joey Jacinto as a staffer here. Just put that out. Okay, well, that's...
Joey Jacinto.
So we have a direct connection now. I just wanted to share that, that's all.
That's fantastic. Congratulations. I love Joey. And
we.
What an athlete. Yeah, he's such a nice guy. I mean, he's the easiest person in the world to talk to. One thing that, it didn't end up manifesting when we were out there, partly because we got on location in Arizona really just for the tournament. If I could have changed anything, I wish I had been able to go to LA and Arizona first and spent a little time with the teams myself before we got to the tournament. But one of the things that was really touching to me when I was out there is, Joey was this incredible competitive athlete, high school, college. When he came out, and I know his family has been, I guess his family has been supportive in that process, but my understanding is that they've never seen him play sports since he came out. And I really wanted to try to get his family to see him play in one of the games during, Gay Ball 10 while we were out there. And we were too short on time, and I didn't, get to make it happen. But I hope that they get a chance to see the movie and get to see what he is like, the kind of leader he is, how important he is to his team, and how he elevates the level of play. Yeah. Because he really is a first-class athlete. And to see him play in this Gay Ball and having him on film, it's the kind of thing that I love, because I can't wait for people to watch this and go, these are gay athletes? And say, yeah, they are. What they are is athletes. Absolutely gay. And Joey really represents that well.
Seth, we are out of time. I wish we had more time, because there's actually a lot to talk about regarding what you've done here with this documentary. Again, it's an amazing, amazing trailer, and I look forward to the release date which we'll update everyone on as soon as we know. But we will put the link up on CompeteRadio.com to link over to the trailer as well as the up-to-the-minute information. We'll also throw a link up there to the Facebook page as well. But Seth, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us today. Really enjoyed all the information and getting to know you.
Thanks, guys. It was a pleasure. I will say go Steelers.
Bless you. Okay.
I will be very happy to be seeing you next week.
Good.
All right, Seth. Well, thank you again, and best of luck with your documentary. We are all pulling for you over here at Compete.
Thank you so much, guys. Be well.
Bye.
Thanks, Seth.
All right, log on to CompeteRadio.com for news, information, hot topics, events, and more. We thank you so much for listening, and we will see you next time.
Compete Radio. Log on to CompeteRadio.com.